Hello, everyone. This is Barb Dufferin, Superintendent of Mahtomedi Public Schools, and I am here to share with you our 2021 school year scenario planning so far. I know that there is a lot of anxiety about the uncertainty of it all, and we know that, and we're very thankful for all of you who have been reaching out and sharing your thoughts and ideas. And we're also very thankful to our staff who have been working hard on figuring out how to plan for the different scenarios for this fall, because it has been a lot of work. So thank you to everyone. So to begin, I am going to give you an overview of our 2021 school year planning work, and I'll give you an update on our draft scenario plan so far. I will also share with you our next steps. So what informed our draft plans? We have our scenario models and our guidance from the Department of Education and also the Department of Health. We've also had a number of surveys to get family and staff feedback as well, and we've used that in our planning. Sorry. So we have the 3 learning scenarios we've shared with you before. So scenario 1 is in person. Scenario 2 is a hybrid, which is a mix of in-person and distance learning. And scenario 3 is our distance learning, which what we're calling distance learning 2.0, because we do know that the spring in distance learning was very challenging all around. And we're very thankful for the collaboration we had with families, because we know it was not ideal and it was our best work at the time, and we know we'll do better in the fall if that's the mode we're in. So I want you to know that Governor Walz's office will be announcing what scenario we will open in the fall on July 30th. And as I talk through these options, I want you to know also that families may request a distance learning plan if they do not want to participate in in-person learning. So that will always be an option. So as I talk about the scenarios, please know that. Please also know that I anticipate that some of you are wondering, how often can you move back and forth, and what would, if you start in distance learning and decide that's not a good option and you want to join a hybrid learning scenario, how could that work? And I want you to know that we're working on that. We don't know yet, but it's something that's on our radar, is something we need to work on for you. Okay. So what informed our draft plans? As we worked through our guidance, we really looked at those public health requirements that are set for safety measures, cleaning, and physical interactions and distancing. And I give you these 3 classrooms as examples of what a classroom would look like under those guidelines and how it would look if everything was spaced out. And so that helps us with our capacity work to figure out how many students can we bring in at any given time. And then also, what are the protocols that we need to follow in order to keep students and staff safe? What are those cleaning protocols? What are our safety measures that we need to take into account? Again, we did ask families and staff for feedback. We did it at the end of the school year with our typical end of the school year annual family survey, and you gave us feedback on the distance learning experience. We also received 2,300 responses to our family scenario survey, and individuals did share their thoughts and enrollment intentions for the 3 learning models. We also heard from staff regarding both their safety and health concerns about returning to work and their desire to connect and support their students. I will say our staff very much miss their students and miss being with their students, and they're also concerned about health and safety as well. This past week, we held focus groups with some families to help us think through our draft plans and receive some feedback so that can inform our future planning as well. Some of the things we've heard. Over 75% of Mahtomedi families at each of our schools indicated that their child would continue their enrollment under scenario 1 or 2. Elementary school families showed the highest support for in-person learning, and secondary families showed the highest support for a hybrid model. So I would want you to know that it was very clear to us through all our feedback that our elementary parents said that distance learning was very challenging, especially for our youngest learners. And so we've heard that, and we've really taken that to heart in our planning, which I'll share with you in the future, or in a few slides. So also based on our feedback, future distance learning models will focus on scheduling. How do we use live and recorded instruction in a better way? Those relationships, what are those connections with classmates and teachers that we can build, and how might we do that in a distance learning environment? And also instruction, a real commitment that we have to rigorous instruction and personalized feedback and support. So with all of that in mind, our foundation for 2021, regardless of the scenario we're in, that we need to build relationships that strengthen academic and social emotional growth. We need to really look at our technology, both our access and devices. And we took care of that, as you know, with our device for every learner. So we're really thankful that we'll be able to start the school year that way. But also training. We know we need training for staff, we need training for students, and maybe a little bit for parents as well in some cases. We're focused on instructional rigor and engagement, scheduling flexibility, maximizing face-to-face learning opportunities for students who need the most direction and support, because we know it's not reasonable for our youngest learners to be self-directed for extended periods of time. They need that support. We want to make sure we have the fewest transitions and the least amount of physical interactions between groups of students. So we talk a lot about cohorts as we're doing our planning. How do we keep cohorts together? We know our parents and students are asking for structure. So in that distance learning environment in particular, just what does that structure look like? And what does that face-to-face work look like in a distance learning environment? So we've been thinking a lot about that. And we also need preparation time for staff, because this is a very different way of doing business. And so it's important that they have the time to work and collaborate together. So what we want for this school year. So our directive was to plan for all three scenarios. And we thought to ourselves, how is it that we are going to do these things? We want to maximize safe in-person and face-to-face learning opportunities. How do we maximize those? We need to minimize physical interactions. We need to minimize activities that demand cleaning that impacts learning time. We need predictability and structure for students and parents for the year, and to minimize the impact of transitioning between scenarios. So we thought a lot about how is it that we can make sure that we have a structure, a kind of a foundation that allows us to move back and forth between scenarios instead of taking a hard stop and then restarting again. We've talked a lot about growing learner independence and student agency through this process. We also know we need to support our workforce and provide support for families who will return to in-person work. We did hear that 60% of our Wildwood families are going to be returning to in-person work. And so that was something we thought a lot about in how we made our plans. We want strong instructional rigor with engagement for students, coupled with feedback for students and families. Okay, and so if these are the things we want, we said, what are those operational changes that are needed? We needed to adjust our school start and end times, and I'll share that with you in a moment. Adjust our schedules, create new classroom and school configurations, and I did show that to you a little bit. I'll talk a little bit more about that. Adjust our class sizes and cohorts, align childcare to the school schedule, create systems to use staff really differently. So this will be a different staffing model as well. And build a structure, again, that can transition to each scenario based on COVID-19 metrics. So I want you to know we really worked hard on considering our health and safety practices. This was a lot of our beginning work. So what's it going to look like in person? So for example, a real staggered entry and exit and passing times in all of the buildings so that kids are not interacting amongst cohorts as they pass through the hallways. We're not going to have large gatherings. Students and staff will be wearing masks. We'll really be looking at how do we keep physical and social distancing in place? What are those hygiene practices that are going to support us? And then what are those enhanced safety and cleaning guidelines for this as well? So I'm going to start by sharing with you the elementary scenario. And when I do this, I'm going to start with the hybrid model because that was our most complex model. Because what we were looking at again is how can we maximize our face-to-face in-person time and face-to-face time with our youngest learners. That was a priority for us. So what we did is we looked and we said, okay, how can we use our staff differently and spread them out throughout the building? So we're looking at using spaces really differently. How can we do that and still maintain the requirement of the 50% occupancy? So when we did that and we spread our staff out and we minimized our class sizes as best we could, we discovered that we could bring in elementary students 4 days a week under the hybrid model. Now, the way this will work is that every student will have one of the 5 days of the week where they're engaged in distance learning at home, and the other 4 days they're in person. But it's not, we have different students on different days. So on any given day, we have 80% of our students in school and 20% of our students that are engaged in distance learning with scheduled online face-to-face instruction. So what this means, in order to do this and use our staff as best we can and really spread them out and use all our staff at all times, that means we needed to shorten the school day. We needed to shorten the school day so that staff could have planning time. And by doing this also, when we think about this, we thought, what do we really need to make sure we're getting students in for, and what kinds of classes do we think we can accomplish through a distance learning environment as well? So our specialists will provide instruction in a distance learning format. Now, when we looked at this also, we really thought about our start times, because we have school age care in the morning. Because our elementary start so late, we have that school age care program. And they have certain health and safety guidelines that require them to spread out as well throughout the building. So the transition from our school age care in the morning, all the cleaning requirements that we would need to do in order to start our school day, we decided that was not manageable. And so what we wanted to do was move the school day earlier to accommodate those families that are going back to work so that they would not need that child care in the morning. We also will be providing that school age care in the afternoon, because we feel like we can have a solution where at the end of the school day, we can take the students out of the building, do the cleaning before we bring them back in. And that we felt was manageable. And so by starting the school day earlier, that will allow us to eliminate that one school age care program in the morning, and at the same time support our families that need to go back to work. And we are also talking about doing this regardless of the scenario, because we know that as we move back and forth during the school year, we want to have a consistent program for our families throughout the year. Distance Learning 2.0 will be different from the spring, because we're looking at, now that we have a device for every learner, we will be doing online face-to-face instruction with teachers based on a regular schedule that families can count on. We'll also have some online small group instruction and some independent practice and feedback. Wildwood will use the learning platform Seesaw with iPads, and OHA will use the learning platform Google Classroom with Chromebooks. So again, I'm going to start with the hybrid model for our secondary as well. So with the secondary model, what we did, so with elementary starting earlier, we're going to start our secondary schools later because of busing. We need to stagger. So all secondary students in a hybrid model are in person for 2 days and in person in school for 2 days and distance learning 3 days a week. Due to capacity limits, we have 4 days a week. We have 50% of our students in the building each day, and 50% of the students are engaged in structured learning in a distance learning environment. On the 5th day of the week, then, all students will engage in structured face-to-face instruction in a distance learning format. We also, for Distance Learning 2.0, Monday through Friday, students will have online face-to-face instruction with teachers based on a regular schedule. They will also have some online small group instruction. and independent practice and feedback. And the learning platform at the secondary level will be Google Classroom, and every student will have a Chromebook. So here are our next steps. On July 30th, Governor Walz will make the scenario announcement. At that time, we will send a message to our community and staff about our next steps and our planned components. Because next week, we are continuing to work on our schedules based on staff and family feedback. Our principals will send a video message that outlines in more detail their building plans. And we're also building an FAQ document to answer questions that we're hearing from families. I really want to reiterate that we will continue to engage with parents and staff so that we can get feedback on the draft plans, that we can hear from you about what it is you're concerned about. And we're committed to that, and we're committed to providing the information to you so that you know what to expect, and you know what the information is that we have as we have it, because this is a work in progress. And I know everyone's doing the best they can. I know that this is really hard, and it's really hard not to know what's going on, in a little over a month from now. But I'm confident that we'll be able to pull together, and we'll be able to pull off the best situation for our students in spite of the circumstances. So thank you so much for your attention. Thank you so much for your feedback, your partnership, and you will be hearing from me again, and I am looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you.